wherever you are, it's absolutely beautiful. So yes, Pradeep, I'm living in London. You can tell John is not in London. Um, Thank you very much for joining us, John. So I'd love to kick this off just with a little fun fact before we jump into things, which actually you sent me, John. So for everyone who's listening here, did you know that the U.S. imports 3 billion, that's with a B for Bravo, billion pounds of coffee beans each year? Only 5% of those beans are certified organic. Less than 1% are certified fair trade, and less than 0.1% of them come in plastic-free packaging. Well, today, there's someone who's doing something about it, and he's joining us here. His name is John Kempf, the founder and CEO and coffee lover at JERF Life Coffee. So, John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, brother. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Where are you taking this from? It looks very beautiful.
This is the backyard garden that we've got going on. And my girlfriend, she is a farmer and a gardener by trade. So I have to give her all of the credit. I am just the one that follows orders and she tells me what to do. But we live out on the island of Maui in Hawaii. And
Beautiful.
so everything grows here. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, fruit all over the place. You drive down the road and there's just my guava tree right now. We just harvested a bunch in the house and there's, probably close to 100 on the ground, and we're building another garden bed and using it for compost.
That's amazing. Well, Lord Nicholas says that he legit thought that was a digital background. I'm afraid that it's real.
Every day, this is my space. It's just a little sanctuary out here. I live halfway up the volcano, Haleakala, and yeah, it's a rural kind of farm country area. They call it upcountry here on Maui, and it's a pretty small island, so it's definitely a nice, very casual pace here. Like, if this makes any sense, the speed limit is 45 miles an hour on the highway. So
Wow,
nobody's in a rush to get anywhere.
that's amazing. Well, today we're talking about, I suppose, slowing down how quickly coffee is produced. I think a lot of sustainability has to do with slowing down to a certain degree and re-examining things. So really there's three kind of topics I'd love for us to cover today, broadly speaking. We're also going to have a lot of opportunities to get questions from the audience and anyone who's listening. So anyone who's listening, I'm watching the chat. Please feel free to jump in and ask any questions, and we'll make sure that we'll get to as many of them as possible. I don't have very many questions written down, so the more questions we have from everyone, the better. But kind of three broad topics, and we'll go through these one by one as we go, is really what is JERF? It's kind of a name that you don't really understand what it means from the beginning, but I know it does have, there's plenty of meaning behind it. Then from there, really, why is the work that you're doing so important? Because it is important. And finally, I think it's really helpful, and I know this was already brought up by someone from India who wants to know, what can we do? What can the people do who are listening to this call to be more environmentally friendly? So those are kind of the big blocks, and we'll probably go down some wacky rabbit holes along the way, and any questions that come up. So enough for me, but let's start really with you. What exactly does JERF mean? And that's spelled JERF.
Yeah. So I'll take it back to 2013, which was a really pivotal year for me because that was when I decided to put on my big boy pants and live up to what in my heart I always knew I had the potential to be. And as a health and fitness professional, I've been a strength and conditioning coach and a nutrition coach since 2009, and that's been my main focus as a career. And I've built a great career out of it. It's a lot of fun, and it's very, very exciting to tinker with your own human body as an experiment, and then apply what you learn on others. And so being an athlete my whole life, strength and conditioning and weightlifting and athletics were very, very prominent, but I never grew up with any kind of nutritional advice. I grew up in a very low income environment, so we ate a lot of just what you would expect to be as, you know, the common diet for low income Americans, the standard American diet, the SAD diet. That's actually the acronym for it, ironically.
Oh, that's
But
right.
Hot Pockets and corn dogs and, you know, no vegetables at all. And then I started learning about nutrition in college, taking my degree for exercise science. And that really opened up my eyes to the importance of nutrition. And I always knew I wanted to be a leader in whatever industry I was in. Health and fitness was what I thought in the beginning. And now just as that expands, it all is connected. But I knew I had to step up my nutrition game. If I wanted to walk the walk, I had to master nutrition. And I started in 2013. May 6th, 2013 was the day that I started eating vegetables, and I started the JERF diet. And JERF stands for Just Eat Real Food. And so, you know, all of the branches from there, there's so much almost arguing going on between people about what kind of whole foods we should eat, when the larger conversation has always been, in my eyes, we're talking about food and food-like products. And there's a lot of good resources out there, like Food Matters is a really good documentary, or Hungry for Change. There's a bunch of them, but it's just highlighting the fact that we've been conditioned as humans. That's how our brains function, is through conditioning, stimulus response. We've been conditioned just by being hammered with so many advertisements and lies and, you know, fancy bright colors and fonts and themes. And we've been sold this gimmick to buy food-like products and not actually food. And there's just so much depth to that conversation.
Absolutely.
Kids don't even know the names of vegetables and fruits anymore. And, you know, the amount of money and research and the amount of staffing that goes into researching the psychological properties of how to get someone that is emotionally vulnerable to buy your product, you know, at the end of the day. And so I've always, as a strength and conditioning and nutrition coach, working with people on a very, very deep level, I've always, at least previously, I first was skeptical of the internet and online marketing, because everybody's seen the ads, and it's just somebody trying to take your money at the end of the day and convince you that it's something good, but it's really not. And so that's been something for me, is over the last, you know, 6, 7 years of learning online marketing and how to, you know, use the internet as a tool to, you know, create not only, you know, brand awareness, but also really positive impact. And so JERF really started for me as my own personal experiment in 2013. And I committed. I said, okay, this is it, whole foods only. And again, I was always big and strong and athletic and a lot of weight training. And so when I got the nutrition piece on point, I actually have all the stats because I'm a super nerd, and I document everything. And so I was around 12% body fat and 204 pounds, I want to say, 205 pounds. And after 1 month of eating a completely whole foods diet and really nailing it, I was at that point counting my calories and, you know, in a little bit more of a lower carb, higher fat macro range, which is typically what I recommend for almost everybody, just looking at the research and anthropology and evolution of the human physiology. That seems to do really well for most people. And I lost 16 pounds, and I went to 4% body fat. It was the
Wow.
leanest I'd ever been, and it really was an eye-opener for me, like, holy shoots, you know, this is really, really powerful stuff. And then from there, it just fueled my passion to learn. I love learning. That's my number one drug, is growth. And so that really pushed me to, you know, go all in and learn about it and then share what I had experienced with others. And so I started competing as a natural bodybuilder and really putting my effort into coaching others and learning more about nutrition. And diving down the rabbit holes of epigenetics and how the environment affects the expression of your genes, and how the gut and the brain are intimately connected, like all things, but just a really, really heavy research topic as of the last decade. And so that kind of term JERF I heard in 2013, and I knew when I heard it. I love language. I think it's a really interesting thing, and the way that we can use it, especially working with others for so long. I really have a way of breaking things down and using analogies and using metaphors for people to understand different potentially complex subjects, especially in the realms of physiology and chemistry. And I heard JERF and it just clicked. I knew it. JERF, like, why have I never heard this before? Why is nobody else talking about this? And of course, like Einstein, everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler. And so I love that idea of you can take a complex subject and break it down into something. That's usually, there's another great quote, I'll probably lose it, but it's something like, the person that knows a subject well explains a lot. The person that knows the subject completely explains a little. They're able to synthesize it down into that more simple term. And I just heard it and I was like, oh my God, that's great. I'm going to ride that wave. And I wasn't the one that made it up. I saw it on Facebook, I want to say back in 2013. And I said I would make that word famous one day. And I had no idea about a coffee business or anything at that point. It was just the coaching protocol that I use with my clients. And I actually have a nutrition course, a video course that's 6 modules. And module 1 is JERF, Just Eat Real Food. And that's the base of the pyramid.
Absolutely.
We're having all these conversations about nutrient timing and what supplements I should take and what ratios of macronutrients. And it's like, you're still eating Cheez-Its, man. I mean, like, let's just address the non-food stuff and, stop the bleeding. Let's get the poison out. Then we can have all those conversations about the most optimal for each individual, which, usually there's quite a bit of diversity within that really, specific, detailed focus for each person. But for everybody, JERF. That everybody can get on that bandwagon, and I just knew it was going to be catchy. And so all my clients, it's like I get texts all the time, the jerfy food, I'm making this jerfy meal. And the potential for that kind of like possibility to make health cool, to make sustainability cool, and even further to make spirituality and consciousness cool. Being a yoga and meditation instructor, as well as a holistic health and fitness coach, I really like to take that 30,000-foot view and integrate everything together. And that is the way of the future. It's really happening already. You can't have, with all the awareness and with the beautiful technology of the internet allowing for instantaneous spread of communication worldwide, you can't get away with stuff anymore that a lot of big corporations used to do. I mean, you go back, it's crazy, man. You go back to the commercials in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s of doctors holding cigarettes and kids holding pills, and saying once a day fluoride, and all that. It's crazy, but just because there's more awareness, which is, all in perfect timing collectively, there's not as much room to get away with that shady stuff anymore and cut corners, but also there's this huge opportunity. And this is something I've talked with a lot of my friends about right now, and I'm sure you're talking with a lot of guests on your show too. This is the time to go all in. Whatever you're doing, if you've got a dream, a passion project, like, go for it, go all in. And so that passion project for me was the coffee, and the JERF just tying into the nutrition coaching, and coffee being actually a seed, which is food that most people don't really associate at first. It helps to bring that kind of like nutrition and sustainability awareness into coffee, which is, like you said, something that is imported at mass, right? Like, who doesn't drink coffee? We've got however many billion people on the planet, and about 50% of them drink coffee. So it's not going to stop. People aren't going to stop drinking coffee, and people aren't going to stop consuming. E-commerce is growing exponentially, especially as of this year. So it's that opportunity now for people to really highlight, and go that extra mile and make their product the best it can be, and not only healthy for humanity but healthy for the planet too.
Absolutely. So what exactly is JERF? How do we take this idea of JERF and how do you apply it to the coffee that you're producing and ultimately talking about?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's usually just that first conversation starter for people, because if anybody, yeah, especially on social media, it's hard to create depth a lot of times just because it's so much, right? And so all the time you'll see it anywhere you go on social media. Go to any prominent health and fitness influencer or coach and look in their comments, how much water do I drink if X, Y, and Z? What about this versus that and all that? And JERF is just a way to kind of squash all those questions in the beginning. It's like I use this example all the time because, again, I love language and I think it's such a great analogy for a lot of things, especially related to a skill. All things are skills. It's all the mind. It's all conditioning in the mind. And so it's just a fact of mastery via conditioning, and we have to unlearn, prune all of the dead branches off of the plant, and then learn the new ones, allow the energy to funnel to the main stock. And so with JERF, it's just a really, really easy conversation starter for a lot of people because they'll come in and say, example for that language, they'll say, hey, I want to, you know, go to Cuba or Spain or something, and they want to do all these things in Spain. It's like, wait, you don't know how to speak Spanish. Like, let's just focus on level one. And I always use the analogy, like, you want to be airdropped into the middle of Cuba, without knowing Spanish. Like, you're not going to make it. If you want to try to time out your macros and do all these things, your likelihood of failing is really high. There's actually a cool statistic from a research study that I refer to a lot, where they were measuring different it was habit formation is what they were looking to measure, and they had different control groups. One group, they tried to learn one new habit in like a month, and then they followed up with everybody like 3 weeks later or something like that to see adherence rate of the new habit. People that did one new habit, they had like a 95% success rate. Two new habits, it was like a 33% success rate. And then three new habits at the same time, it was like a 3% success rate. So, you can only juggle so many tennis balls at once. And if you just do one or two, you can keep that going. But if you try to do three, four, or five, you'll drop all of them. And so that's just kind of the idea with JERF is so many people through conditioning, again, from, average person sees whatever, 4,000 some commercials a year. And so they've been taught to expect this short come, easy gratification, all I got to do is just buy that supplement that jacked chick was holding, or that jack guy, or that fit chick that's really pretty that I want to be like. So if I take that supplement, like, well, that's what they're telling me. So you can't blame humans because that's what they've been told. That's what they've learned. But just to, like what you said in the beginning, slowing down, simplifying, like where can we minimize? And for example, I do fasting and meditation retreats out here on Maui. And one of the reasons I love fasting is because you do less. It's so many people, the New Year's resolutions, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 5 every day, and then I'm gonna walk, and then I'm gonna work out, and then I'm gonna have a green smoothie, and the one day, like, something goes wrong and the whole thing, and then they're done, and if it's just simplified and easy, those little easy wins, it makes it a lot easier. So practically speaking, okay, what does JERF actually look like? Well, go to the store and only shop on the outside perimeter of the store, where, usually on one side on the outside perimeter is the, fresh produce of fruits and vegetables, and somewhere around the outside perimeter you'll find, say, the deli or the butcher. And so you can get most of your produce that way. If you want to get, really fancy and go, full on Maui style like this, you can, start your own garden, indoor greens, really easy. Any solution that you can do to involve yourself with nature, and that's beautiful because of the expression of food allows you to connect with nature, even though it's you don't have to like go outside and sit under a tree and meditate to appreciate whole food. And like, cut open a tomato, you know, and look at that thing. And it's like, wow, there's so much just intricacy and beauty and order in a lot of the things that are around us in nature, but we get disconnected from that. So JERF is so much more than just eat real food. It's something that I like to talk about in the health podcast that I have, is becoming human again. And nature is really, you know, one of the greatest recommendations for that. And food is that bridge between humans and nature. And it's something that we have to consume to live. So it, you know, with a conscious eye, it allows you to start to unlearn and prune off all those kind of city dwelling habits that are really not in the nature, not in the natural lifestyle and evolutionary patterns of the human organism as a hunter or gatherer, and then as a tribes people. You know, a lot of the ways that we live now is so disconnected. And the evolution of technology and the evolution of society and the economy has gone past, it's faster than the evolution of human physiology. And so, you know, you introduce pesticides and it just slaughters the microbiome. You introduce, you know, sweeteners and excess levels of sugar and all these things where our body just hasn't had the time to acclimate and adapt and, you know, build resilience to. Not that we can't, you know, that's kind of the superpower of humans, is adaptability. And so, you know, we will continue to evolve, but it's obviously in all ways through consciousness gone too far in one direction. And so, you know, in that concept of slowing down, like, hey, let's just eat real food. Like, how can we make this simpler for people in the age of information when they're already just getting hammered all day long? And that I've had so much more success than sitting, okay, here's your meal plan. You're going to have at breakfast and then this many calories and none of that. Don't eat that. You know, it's just like Michael Pollan's a big inspiration for me. He's got a lot of great nutrition literature out there. In Defense of Food's a really good book I highly recommend. And he just basically went around and talked to a bunch of different cultural leaders and scientists, and he just did a bunch of research on food and traditions and all of this stuff related to food and nature and the evolution of the human body and the mind. And one of his great quotes I love is, he's like, eat whatever you want, just make it yourself. You know, have that cake, but make it, because the emotional connection that you have, the pride that goes into the process itself of just making something and connecting. You know, he has another great stat, I can't remember what it is, but kitchen sizes have grown by 40%, yet family meetings for dinner have decreased by 70%. So it's just really interesting that we've kind of lost this connection with food and the culinary process that is like so ingrained in human culture and social connection. And I really push for that. I really push to people, like, go, you know, one of my nutrition friends, she's a wizard. She told me one time, she's like, just pick up a potato and hold it. And I, like, when I first heard that, I'm like, you know, like the typical, like, well, it's a potato, you know, but I get it so much more now. It's the nature, like the feeling of like dirt, you know, get your hands in the dirt, get your kids out there in the dirt and playing, like the hand sanitizer and stuff, like all of that is artificial. That's all of that is outside the natural evolution of the human physiology and microbiology and on and on and on. And not only the psychology, oh, I got to be clean or else I'm gonna get sick if I go out there and get dirty. Like, people, you got a hell of an immune system. I'll tell you what, you know, if you take care of it, it is a resilient, magnificent thing that will function quite well. So, you know, just a lot of that stuff over the last 120 years since industrialization has really skewed the perspective of health in general. And so just kind of shifting people back to that. If you were to go back to your great 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 grandfather and say, hey, can I get some organic tomatoes out of your garden? He'd go, what kind of tomatoes? You know, the regular ones? You know, there was no other. And so I, like, you know, just always bringing it back to that is like, let's just come back to the fact that 3 generations ago was not long, not long at all. That is a blink of an eye. And we have completely changed how we perceive food, how we perceive the environment. You know, there's so much that we've lost touch with, lost connection with. And so I really see JERF as that opportunity to connect people under a tribe, connect them under, you know, a vision and a mission of all of these subjects of sustainability and organic and holistic health and alternative medicines instead of, you know, just immediately going right to the pharmaceuticals. You know, time and a place, modern medicine's great. You get hit by a bus, go to the doctor, go to the hospital. You're going to get taken care of. But chronic disease and, you know, disharmony within the being itself is a totally different subject that you can't just take a pill and put a band-aid on and expect it to go away. So, you know, and that's true in all areas. We really see that now. It's like come so much to a head with everything that's happened this year is like you've got the people on one side of the fence that are like, man, life's actually pretty great. It's almost better than ever. Huh? Like, right? And then you've got the other people that you see they are suffering in serious contrast right now because they don't know what their truth is. They don't know what side of the fence is right or wrong. And so just being able to be totally authentic and transparent, I think is so important moving forward and something that I've always been about on day one. I mean, you even go to my personal Instagram and it's just me in my house, in my garden. Like my pictures are me out here doing yoga. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm not taking any fancy supplements. Just eat real food. Just move your body. Do some breath. Sit down and relax. You know, go out in some nature. Hug some babies. You know, pet some kittens. And you know, it really is it is that simple in so many ways. And that's really the mission behind JERF is like, hey, let's all connect under the fact that we've lost touch with who we are as a species. And we can really easily come back to that just by simplifying and removing and reducing and coming back to that, you know, being a human really to me is the most important part.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, on the back of that, what exactly is so, because I think that's a really great background and kind of in the last 10 minutes here, you're taking this philosophy and you're applying it to your coffee beans and to the coffee that you're providing and ultimately selling. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you're taking JERF and basically what is so special about your coffee and how is it sustainable?
I just got goosebumps, man. I'm so freaking stoked about this and so passionate about this because it has nothing to do with me. It's the potential in 10, 20 years when other companies are like, holy smokes, look what they did and they're killing it. We should model them. And so with this whole thing, I started basically as a nutrition coach. I started researching coffee because I started drinking it in college, needed that rocket fuel to get through senior year. It definitely helped. And, you know, as a nutrition coach, everything that I am consuming or engaging with via epigenetics, I want to know about that. What is happening with that relationship between that thing that I'm engaging with in my environment, inside or outside? If it goes down in here, it's still an environment it's engaging with, my microbiome and so on. So I started researching coffee and I found out that, first of all, coffee is actually really, really healthy for you. Coffee has a ton of different nutritional benefits, one being that it's actually one of the highest forms of antioxidants, one of the highest sources of antioxidants that we can get from food. And that helps reduce free radicals, that helps to repair the telomeres, the length of the telomeres in relation to age, lifespan. And there's a really cool study. This is what kind of turned the gears for me is it was like a worldwide study, nationally or internationally done, a really well done study. It was like 180,000 people worldwide, something like a lot of people. And they studied coffee consumption to lifespan. And they found that if you drink 3 to 4 cups of coffee, or it was 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, you actually have an average lifespan of 5 to 6 years longer than those who don't. All the way up to, I think it was 6 cups a day, which I don't advocate drinking 6 cups of coffee a day. That's pretty insane. But it just goes to show that, you know, caffeine, bad. And caffeine, actually, if you look at any of the drugs out there, caffeine is likely the most researched drug of them all because of its versatile use. It's really, really effective at doing a lot of different things. And so, you know, you've got caffeine, you've got antioxidants, and then you actually have other amino acids within the coffee bean that they don't even know everything that they do yet. You know, there's still research happening all the time in this kind of stuff. And the key factor in you receiving all these nutritional benefits from the coffee is the coffee being fresh roasted. And I thought that was so interesting, and it made sense once I heard it, because just like any other food, you know, I love the analogy of bread. Imagine a fresh loaf of bread coming out of the oven. The smell, you bite into it and it starts salivating, and it's so good, and it's got all of the fresh, you know, ingredients in it. But that bread, same bread out of the oven, 3 weeks later, sitting on the counter, stale, doesn't taste good, no smell, and it's probably lost all its nutritional benefit at that time. The half-life of nutrients, you know, they decompose. And so same thing with the coffee bean. If you consume it within 10 to 14 days, the kind of window is 2 weeks is the ideal range, you'll get the most nutritional benefit, and you'll get a lot of those other things that die off over time that you don't get from the coffee that is shipped to the warehouse, and then from the warehouse is shipped to the distributor, and from the distributor it's put on the shelf, and then on the shelf it sits for 3-4 weeks or months before you buy it. And so at that point it's dead coffee. And you know, for all the connoisseurs out there, not only are you losing all of that delicious flavor and aroma, but for the nutritional benefits, if it's not fresh, you don't get them. And so I thought that was, you know, very eye-opening for me. And
Wow.
so I, of course, personal experimenter, bought some beans online, started roasting, and I just did them in my oven, watched some YouTube tutorial videos, and lots of smoke. And it's not quite as easy as you think doing it in the oven. But I will say, even the first time I did it, the beans were so good, man. And I was just an amateur. By no means did I even do it optimally. But that was when I was like, oh my God, this is like game changer coffee. And these are probably just random beans, and I'm not roasted right. And it was way better than any other coffee I'd had before. So that got me thinking, okay. So I started, you know, perfecting my roasting technique, and I started giving the beans away to friends. You know, I just would make a bunch, and then, you know, oh, this is a good gift. They're going to love this, and Christmas and holidays and birthdays and stuff. And to a point where everybody was giving me feedback like, dude, this is amazing. You should start a business. And I was like, oh, ha, 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 you know, and then, well, 3 years later, here we are. But so I actually, out here on Maui, I just was blessed to connect with this artisan coffee roaster out here. He's got his own coffee business. He's an absolute stud. You get specialty coffee beans, and he was taught very, very specifically by an old coffee wizard, and he adopted his business after the previous guy retired. So he's like all about it. He knows roast everything, all the details, like way over my head. And we connected, and he's like, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to partner up, and you know, we can get more beans out there. And so he is just an incredible coffee roaster. And so that took our coffee from, you know, amazing to literally the best. Like, this guy knows how to roast coffee beans to perfection. And then we get the absolute best beans we can from all over the world. And that's actually what we're working on right now. Is one of our next steps is to add to our variety. Right now we've got a single origin Peruvian bean, but we're planning to add a lot more, so that way people can try different types of coffee and find the ones that they like. But the kind of next hurdle for me was packaging. And it didn't feel good. You know, I got to be honest, is like in the beginning, it was early days, but I knew there had to be a better way, recyclable, compostable, something. And so this was year and a half ago or so, 2 years ago, I started researching compostable bags, and we found a company, and they were pretty good. But then I dove down a deeper rabbit hole and found out that industrially composted is actually not that awesome. And a lot of companies, just like what we were talking about earlier, they like to raise their hand and say how sustainable and ecologically conscious they are, but they just want money. And it's really, really shady, because there's only a few industrial composting facilities worldwide, and chances are nobody is going to actually take it down there, or at least very, very few people. So they're going in the landfill. And these industrial compostable bags are made up of a substance called PLA. And it's just an alternative to plastic, ultimately. I will say the benefit of it is it costs less emissions to manufacture. So it's a step in the right direction. But lifespan, if it's in a landfill, lasts 500 years. You know, there's no real difference there. If it's in a composting facility with 140 degrees, temperature, humidity, all those things, microbes added to the soil, it breaks down. But that's not happening. And so I went down the rabbit hole even further, and just so thankful to find a company in New Zealand, Econic Packaging, and they actually have home compostable bags that are PLA and plastic free. So
Wow.
you can put them in your garden bed and they'll break down. And this is actually the bag right here, and it has like the little, you know, compostable all over the packaging too, so you know that you can just throw it in the trash. But just for convenience for people, it's going to go in the trash most of the time. And so knowing that these are actually going to break down in the trash and not sit in a landfill, like that to me was so big. And even the labels, like the sticky labels, is sugar cane as the adhesive, so it's biodegradable as well. And the packaging and mailers that we use are all compostable through another company called Eco Enclose. And I will say just outright, the shipping is insane for both the bags and the mailers, but I don't care. Like if I don't make much profit, it really doesn't matter to me because I'm not here to scale up to a $10 million business and you know, that doesn't matter to me whatsoever. Like this, I'm not going anywhere, guys. You see what I got here? Like I am content. I'm good. So it's more about just making a statement. I'm just a regular guy, a small business owner, and you know, did some research and started a company. Like you guys can do that too. It's really within your reach to use the tools and the internet now, and the community that you have online, like this, you know, engagement is so amazing. It's a beautiful opportunity for us, and you know, the icing on the cake. I was looking at companies to donate to, and we just couldn't settle. We found a farm out here, a farm apprenticeship program that was mentoring the youth for farm education for holistic sustainable farming. Oh, that's awesome, cool. Turns out the leadership changed positions and it just didn't fit quite. And then I heard about One Tree Planted, and they're a nonprofit organization worldwide. They have huge reforestation initiatives. They were contributing to the Amazon fires, the Australian fires, and now they've got a major focus in reforestation of California for the California fires. And that's actually where we're donating for our bags right now, is to the reforestation initiatives in California. But One Tree Planted, as it sounds, will create a partnership where for every product sold, you can plant a tree. And I've actually gone even further than that because I want to make it like this game for people to see how many trees they can plant. And so, you know, if you buy a bag of coffee, it plants one tree. If you buy a mug, it plants two trees. If you buy, you know, if you get on a subscription offer, for example, it gives you 2 bags a month, once every 2 weeks. So you're getting fresh roast. But that's a tree in the ground, 2 trees in the ground every month. That's 24 trees. And a fun little fact, a mature tree, on average sequesters about 48 pounds of carbon per year. And so a subscriber that plants 24 trees, that's 1,152 pounds of carbon sequestered per year per subscriber.
Wow.
Like that's a half ton, you know, like it gets me excited because guys, like we can do this, you know. It reminds me of the cartoon A Bug's Life, if anybody's seen that, where the ants come together and together they're stronger than the grasshoppers, you know. So it's really putting the power back into the hands of the people. And it's something I talk a lot about in my holistic health and fitness and leadership coaching, is we vote with our dollar. We vote every single day. And I love the analogy that if everyone were in a restaurant and they looked at the menu and said, ew, gross, and they stood up and they walked out, the business has two options: change the menu or shut down the business, you know. And we're keeping these other companies afloat by purchasing from them. And imagine if just all of the pesticide coffee companies lost all their business tomorrow. They would have to switch. Like they would have to. There's so much invested for them. So it's really on us. It's the responsibilities on the people. Is you can either roll over and allow these things to continue, or you can stand up and use your voice and use the resources that you have at your disposal to make a change. And this is like huge because people can really start planting a lot of trees, and that I think is just like such a fun way to get people together, is like, hey, we're really making a difference. And the money will be going to different initiatives based on, you know, what's the most relevant place to donate, where people need it the most for our time. But, you know, carbon negative, and, you know, planting trees. And I love the quote, really what inspired it is, plant trees under whose shade you will not sit. And that to me is selfless service. You know, I'm just doing this because I love coffee, man. And And if I can provide other people with a source of coffee that they're going to buy anyway, but it doesn't have plastic laying around for the next 12 generations, 7 generations, and we can actually start to bring awareness to the fact that trees and reforestation are a really, really big part of the answer right now. So all of that together is really just, encompasses that idea of JERF life. It's a lifestyle, like eating real food and living consciously and trying to make sustainable decisions as best you can. All of those things come together to make this tribe, this, community of people that are standing up and saying, "Hey, I'm voting. I'm doing my part."
Yeah, I think it's you mentioned the supply and demand piece, which I think is huge, and that's something that I talk about a lot as well. And I think it's probably the most important thing that we as individuals can do is really, as you said, vote with our dollar or whichever
Mm-hmm.
currency you happen to have, wherever you are in the world. And speaking of voting with your dollar, you're actually doing a giveaway where you're encouraging people to test what sounds like the most incredibly tasting coffee potentially in the world. I'm certainly salivating, even though it's almost 9 p.m. here. I'm ready for a cup of delicious, freshly roasted coffee. So can you tell us a little bit about the JERF Life Coffee giveaway and how anyone who's listening and anyone who will see this over the next week or so can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're launching officially on Monday, the 26th of October, so 5, 6 days from now. And this whole week, we're doing a promotional giveaway to celebrate the launch. And we're giving away 2 home brewing kits to all the people that enter. And the home brewing kit includes an electric gooseneck kettle, a pour over carafe, a burr grinder, and a coffee bag clip, and a couple bags of coffee. So and a mug, excuse me, as well. A nice little double-walled mug in there. So it's the perfect setup. Really, what gave me the inspiration is it's the same setup I have. I have the same exact kettle and pour over, and I make a pour over every day. So if you want to have the most ideal, delicious cup of coffee, this home brewing kit is the way to do it. And so we're giving away 2 of those. All you have to do is just go to JERF_life_ on Instagram. That's our Instagram handle. And we've got posts that have the little coffee basket giveaway with instructions. And then there's also a link in our bio for 3 6-month subscriptions that we're giving away for free coffee. So we're doing another giveaway that's actually just for the coffee. And there's a link in the bio. It's giveaway.jerf-life.com. And you can just put your email in there. And also, after you enter your email, it'll give you a chance to try a free sample of JERF Life Coffee. So we've got little sample bags. They have 6 tablespoons of whole beans in each bag, which is equivalent to 3 cups of coffee. So it's like 1 pot of coffee for free. All you guys have to do is pay shipping, and we'll send that to you, and you can try out JERF Life, and from there, see if you guys want to contribute to the planting of some trees.
Amazing. Well, John, thank you so much for your time. I think it was awesome to hear about your approach and philosophy, which clearly is fueling the business, and obviously it dictates the direction in which you as a business owner are moving. JERF Life Coffee, which for anyone who's listening, I think is very important to know how the businesses that you support, how they think about business in general and how they approach life, because ultimately that's businesses have a really big impact on the environment and on people in general. And so it's really good to hear about how the business owner is actually approaching the work that they're doing. And I think, John, your approach is it's very clear. It's about slowing down. It's about just eat real food and being, I suppose, natural and in tune with nature. We have a question. Someone wants to know your Instagram. So first of all, there is JERF_life_, which is the account that you're currently joining us from. I think the question is, what is your personal Instagram?
Yeah, my personal Instagram is Thor, like the son of Odin, and _KEMPF. Kempf is my last name. So Thor_KEMPF.
I'll see if I can just write that down and put it in the comments hopefully you guys can see that, at Thor_Kempf. So Kempf is John's last name, surname, and you can follow him there. And it sounds like there's going to be some pretty epic photos of your life in Maui, half
Yeah.
volcano.
There's some really good nature pics that I put up. They're all right around this area.
Amazing. Well, John, thank you so much. Have a great day. Enjoy the garden. Enjoy the real food that you're eating. And if anyone's interested in joining the giveaway, just click at the top or tap the button at the top there. So you'll be able to go to JERF Life's Instagram page, and all the instructions are there. And at Thor_Kempf is John's personal Instagram for anyone who's asking. So, and yes, before, after, that is the correct term, or you've written it correctly, as far as I can tell. Cool, guys, and thank you so much for your time, John. Hope this was a lot of fun for everyone who's listening. It was certainly fascinating to hear everything. So best of luck. Looking forward to learning, or rather hearing about how the launch goes next month.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate the time, man. Much love. Enjoy yourself over there across the pond, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds very good. Have a great one, man. Take care.
Take care, guys. JERF.
JERF. Great way to end it. Take care.